6:30, we call the meeting to order.
So can I ask the board members just before we start to make sure your microphone is on if it's not already? And we'll do our regular introduction just to set the stage like we always do. So in accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency as enacted to read section G1 MRSA subsection 403A, public proceedings through remote access during declaration of state of emergency due to COVID-19. This business meeting is being held with a mix of in-person and virtually using Zoom. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the maranacook.org YouTube channel. Please be aware we're doing our best with the audio and acknowledge that audio can be challenging sometimes in a dual setting. Due to the change in the format of this Board of Directors meeting, please be aware that during the course of the meeting, the microphones of the viewing audience will be muted, except during the identified portion of public comments at the meeting. For today's agenda, this is item number 3. There is a chat feature in Zoom, but we will not be utilizing this feature for the meeting. If you have any questions or comments, we respectfully ask that you contact the central office, email the superintendent or any board member, and an answer will be provided as soon as possible. Again, we thank the public for their patience during these highly unusual circumstances. Attendance and all votes will be done through roll call. So when your name is called, board members, please cast your vote with the 3 available options of yes, which is approve, no is disapprove, or abstain. And again, we need to make sure both the board members that are attending virtually and those in session can hear and interact with each other. So please, again, make sure that your audio is turned up, and I am going to proceed to roll call. So we'll start with Kim.
Yes.
Wendy.
Yes.
Dane.
Yes.
There he is. Kathy.
Here.
Melissa.
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, good.
Alex.
Here.
Patty.
Here.
Rebecca.
Here.
Betty.
Here.
Sean. Not hearing Sean, okay. Gary.
Here.
And David. Here. There he is. There we go. I turn it over to you, Dr. Carr.
Student representatives, do we have any?
And I believe they are online. I don't know if the middle school students would like to go first. Emma, Cooper, and Rocco.
So I guess I can start.
Thank you.
I am Cooper Tarbuck, and I'm going to talk about like some school-wide events that have happened and things that are happening on the Katahdin team. So I'm going to start with some school-wide things. And over the last month, a lot of things happened, actually. We had the NAWIA tests on the 3rd and 5th. We had a pajama day on the 24th. We picked the yearbook cover, and the artist who drew that was Jules Wing. The second quarter started. The middle school had also raised $1,800 for the Make a Difference Week, which happened virtually. And then some upcoming things are Nordic and basketball are scheduled to start soon. Kids Who Care Day is coming up this Friday. And the student government, in collaboration with the Civil Rights Team and the GSA, are having a kindness week that is starting on Kids Who Care Day. And just a few days ago, the PTO put some festive decorations in the entryway. And on Katahdin, for their math classes, the 6th graders are working on fractions, specifically real life applications of fractions. The 7th graders are working on expressions and equations, and the 8th graders just finished their algebra amusement park project. In their core classes, they are looking at civics, including the election process, US history, rights and responsibility. In their ELA classes, they have been working on real-world writing, like good email etiquette, composing letters, and they're creating a framework for a research project they are going to start soon. They have German and gym as their UAs this quarter. And that is all I have for now.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Rocco Scott, and I'm going to be talking about the Royal team and the Sebago team. So classes on Royal team have been a continuation of navigating our oceans. They used what they learned in the lab to make their own solar power desalinators. They designed, checked, and redesigned their work. They also reviewed the water cycle as a way to better understand water scarcity. Students have also worked on making presentations about the world biomes and other classes. They are looking at mitigation strategies to address the issue of water pollution. Students will research one mitigation method while they learn how water is filtered in nature. Royal River is starting their informational writing unit as well as continuing with grade level math. And they're in the Spanish cycle for their foreign language and have had health for a UA. The Sebago team has just started their informational writing unit as well, and students have picked events or social movements that have changed the US for the better. They've also learned about cells and cell structure and the debate of whether an egg is the largest cell or not. Students are taking part in the egg drop challenge. They have to design some kind of container that will protect their egg from a 14-foot drop, only using the materials the groups agreed on. The students have been very disappointed about not being able to use the wood shop, but are grateful they are still at school and are integrating more technology into their work environment as well.
Thank you, Rocco.
And I think Emma's our last middle school student.
My name is Emma Rosner, and I'm going to be talking about the Moose and Acadia teams. So Moose has been working on argumentative writing in their ELA classes and will be choosing a subject to write about in their next quarter. In math, 8th graders are working on functions and slopes, as well as 7th graders are working on expressions and equations, and 8th graders are multiplying and dividing fractions. In their core class, Moose is learning about civilizations and will be creating their own civilizations, in the process learning how government, economics, world trade, and wars work. They've had music and French as UAs. Acadia has been doing they will be researching important people from the civil rights movement. They will also be piecing together the steps from civil rights through the past to now. And in math, they've been doing a vacation project where students had to spend $10,000 to go to a place that they wanted to work on decimals for all the grades. The 8th grade is doing standards, and they're just all doing standards. For UA's, Acadia team has coding and art, and that's all that I have.
Thank you, Emma. Next one.
And then for the high school, we have Claire and Morgan. I don't know who would like to go first.
I can go first. I'm Morgan, and I'm going to talk about our school's council and senate. So for council, we've been wanting to work on attendance for meetings and some note-taking organization just during like general senate meetings. And then we've also been talking about working with the music department to possibly have some morning music playing each Friday or so in the lobby. And we've also been working on selecting our class representatives. And I believe the junior class has selected theirs. For Senate, some of our individual committees have been working on some different things. So Sustainability Committee has been making plans to work on the mural that we started last year. Student Voice is looking for a new project after the bonfire was canceled. School Spirit has been working on some spring carnival ideas. Outreach has been working with Miss Tracy in the middle school to organize some holiday food baskets and working on getting a solidified plan for another Make a Difference week. And Health Center has been working with NAMI suicide prevention and talking about creating an Instagram to bring some awareness to that and create some more surveys for student mental health and workload.
Thank you, Morgan.
Hi, I'm Claire, and I'll just talk about some of the other things that are happening in our school. I think last time we talked to you, we just started our new corner, and now we are pretty far through. Things are getting exciting. We have started a new QR code program outside classrooms, and so if you need to enter a classroom that's not in your schedule, you can just scan the QR code, and that helps with contact tracing and just making sure that if there was another case, we would know who has been in contact with them. Two of our juniors, Sarah St. Clair and Sally Stokes, were accepted into the Civics Unplugged program and are now going to be fellows with that, which is pretty cool. This week, students have thanked Miss Reynolds, our health center director, who is leaving us. And they've made a big thank you card outside the health center up on the wall, which is kind of fun to look at. Last night, our Miranda Cook Soul program, which is hosted by the Rho Kappa Social Studies Society, hosted a webinar with the historian and author, Kenneth C. Davis. I don't know if any of you got to see that, but it was pretty cool. He was an interesting guy. And our winter sports teams have started to meet over Zoom the past week or so, and can start practices with safety precautions as early as next Monday. So that will be getting going. I think that's it for what's happening at the high school.
Thank you, Claire. Moving on to citizens' comments.
There's nobody signed in, but is there anyone online at this time?
I hear nobody. Moving on. Adjustments to the agenda.
Oh, go ahead.
I just have a quick question about at our last meeting, we talked about having a retreat on December 16th, right? Did we ever talk about the time or is that like usual meeting time, 6:30 or?
Yeah, I was looking at a 6 to 8 time period.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. And I do have one adjustment. It would be number 7B, and it would be surplus property I'd like to inform you about. So it's 7B, and it'll be surplus property. That's my only adjustment.
Any other comments by the board? Moving on. Reports.
Could I actually start with my administrators, and could I start with Mr. Boston first? Do you mind? And as Mr. Boston is walking up, I'll just say that I'm kind of putting him on the spot a little bit. But Mr. Boston, I know it was in your board report, but could you speak a little bit about the holiday ornaments from RSU 38 that are going to be on the national Christmas tree?
Sure. If I keep this on, can people hear me okay? All right, great. So Mrs. Blake, the art teacher at Reed Field, Mount Vernon, and Wayne, had received an email from the state DOE and was asked if any districts were interested at the elementary level of participating in a ornament making at a national level to be put on the White House Christmas tree. It was a random selection. She put our names in. We were fortunate enough to get selected, and she had worked with Manchester's art teacher as well. So we had representatives from all 4 schools. And what we ended up doing, it was not an art contest. We did a random selection of 3 students from each of the schools. So we had 12 kids selected. They met at Reed Field. They didn't have a lot of time to put this together, but they had about 3 hours that they worked on it over there. And then they submit it to the state. It goes down to Washington, and then there's a 3D printer that will make I believe, a glass ornament out of their designs. And the kids did a really nice job being with such a short time limit. And I wanted to thank, the art teachers at the elementary level for their time and commitment, and congratulations to all. It was a good experience.
And I don't know if Mr. Boston knows this. I was told that it was on channel 8 or 5, one of the Bangor stations that actually had picked up the news article, and we're expecting an article in the KJ that Nicole Blake is going to work with the reporter on. So we're getting some really nice publicity for it, and it's all thanks to Nicole kind of picking up that ball and running with it. So I just wanted to highlight that with Mr. Boston because it's pretty special that our ornaments are down in Washington. So yeah,
All right, thank you.
Boston. I don't know if there's questions from the board. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I don't know if there's questions for the board to any of the the elementary principals at this time.
Hear none, see none. Moving on to the middle school.
And again, we're going to do the same thing if it's okay today. Middle school, is there any questions that Kristen can answer for anyone? Kristen, I didn't get a chance to ask you if there was anything you wanted to add. So if you don't today, that's okay. So.
So the high school?
All right. Dr. Conway, same thing. I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you've got something to add, that's fine. If not, then we'll just entertain any questions the board may have.
So the big thing that I saw was that all the grades in NUIA is up. I thought that was pretty cool for all the schools. I don't know how that happened, but thank you, God. Okay. Bill?
Oh, I lost my agenda, sorry. Trying to
Well,
stay in order
communication.
there, I apologize. Ryan, was there anything you wanted to add to your report today? No. Okay, any questions for Mr. Meserve in special education? I saw Dr. Harriman here. Dr. Harriman, anything you want to add or any questions from the board?
No, but I just wanted to mention that I put those samples. I just wanted to mention that I included those samples of the student goal reports because a lot of you are parents or in communication with parents, and they can go in and use that tool. It's not just for educators. Anyone can use that tool.
Cool.
And Mr. Vos, anything you'd like to add for adult education, or are there any questions from the board?
None. So now we're up to special education curriculum. We got all of it. Superintendent, where's he at?
So you've got my report there. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I know I'll probably do a lot of talking later on. So if there's any questions, though, I certainly
He
don't
has a
mind
long
answering
report
those.
later on. I can tell you that. Okay. So we have a curriculum is going to meet in February 24th.
Yep.
Dropout prevention, I don't know about that. How do we, any dropouts?
No, we don't, but the minutes from the dropout committee were submitted with this report. I know David from the board attends and Dr. Conway runs that meeting, and the minutes are included here in the board packet. I don't know, David, if there's anything you want to add or say about that.
I missed that meeting and the minutes seemed very thorough.
And then we go facilities, transportation. So the lights on the track is going to be put out in March. because of the not getting the contractor in soon enough. So that's how that's going to work. Health advisor, any questions?
No, we don't have anything for that. Or, sorry, Patty.
We don't have anything for that, but hearing Claire Holman talk about their card for Rebecca Reynolds makes me think that we should do something for Rebecca Reynolds. So I don't know how that happens, or if I have to make a motion, or if, Kim, we're on that together, right? Am I right about that?
Yes, you are. I missed the last meeting though.
No problem. Should we, we could maybe, I don't want to speak for you, but I think I would like to acknowledge her awesomeness before she takes off to go to her next place, because she has done so much for our health center. So I don't know how that happens. How does that happen?
The last day's Friday, so we got to get on it.
Yeah, like the day after tomorrow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you guys just want to communicate with me, I can help
Okay.
facilitate that. However you guys, I'll make it happen so that you guys can get to Rebecca. and-
Okay.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
yep, absolutely.
So we're going to move on to first reads.
So there are, who wants to, sorry,
That's you.
is it me or is
Yeah,
it?
you.
Are you the spokesperson, Ben? Is it? I don't know.
You know, the first read is normally done by the supervisor.
Okay, so I'll do the first read then. We'll keep it simple. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we actually had quite a list at policy to work through. And after a snafu and being in the wrong rooms, we were actually able to get the entire team together. But we did a fantastic job because it was a lengthy menu. There were a lot of policies that we simply reviewed, didn't have any substantial changes to them. But there are three, as you see on this agenda, ADC, which is tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco and electronic smoking devices, JLCB, which is immunization of students, and JLCC, which is communicable infectious disease protocols. And we did make changes to those based on samples that we got from the MSMA. So I encourage you to take a look at those. And if you've got any questions, you can reach out to the policy committee or myself. And I think, Kim, is your hand? Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be some more action taken on the student, not activities. Sorry.
Yes.
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 Well, one of those.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Hold
at
on,
the
which
next-
one is it?
Okay.
That one was tabled.
Was tabled?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we're bringing it back next meeting. It's actually on the docket for the December meeting. We needed to gather more information, so we will be coming back with that.
Okay, Awesome Bears.
Awesome Bear. Yeah, there was a meeting. Not too many sports are being or were being run at that time. Their main concern is how to, since concessions are not open, how to facilitate selling things as their major way of raising funds is through the concessions. And so they will be, I think they're going to be going possibly online to sell some of their stock that they already have. And so if you're looking for some Christmas gifts for kids, they have all sizes, children's all the way up to teens. So look it up, and great way to support the sports programs.
Thank you very much, Betty. Surplus, Jay.
So I'll do that at 7B, so you're actually at 6A.
Oh, I put it in the wrong place.
Oh, it's all good.
I move to accept the minutes of November 18th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
All righty. Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa, oh, Melissa, you still there? No, okay, we've lost her for whatever reason. Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean is not here, Gary,
Yes?
and David.
Yes.
So passes unanimously.
I move to accept the donations.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Roll call vote again. Kim,
Yes, and thank you.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa, try again, still not here. Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean's not here, Gary,
Yes.
and David,
Yes.
and passes unanimously.
I move to approve the request of Tricia Plord for a leave of absence for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Alex.
So, my first question is this the result of them using all their personal days and sick days, or
No, the letter is in the folder if you want to take a look at that. It's a wider issue than that. It's more of a long-term issue.
Sounds good. Any further questions? Go ahead, roll call.
Okay. Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa, I'll try again, maybe. Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean's not here, Gary,
Yes?
and David.
Yes.
And again, unanimous. Thank you.
I move to approve the winter sports plan as outlined by Mr. Remington at the November 18th, 2020 school board meeting.
Second.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I was just wondering, I understand there's some conversation happening right now between DHHS and the MPA that may change some of the regulations coming forward from the CDC. And I'm just wondering if we accept this now, how will those changes that come from the DOE impact that?
Based on my knowledge up to this point is that we would just implement them. If there's any changes, we would just implement them as recommended by them. That's what I'm kind of understanding from the language that I'm hearing.
I just want to make sure that that as a board, that everyone understands that this may be something that we vote on tonight, but it may change if, as things are changing
Right.
across the state.
And just so the rest of the board knows, after Mr. Remington gave his presentation, I did receive a communication from MSMA, and they did recommend that due to everything that's going on, that school boards take a vote on if they wanted to do sports or not. Some school systems are choosing not to do sports. So I thought it was better to bring it to you guys just so that there was a clean, clear vote. So that's why I'm bringing it to you. But we'll, like Kathy just said, if there's any recommended changes, Brant's been right on top of that with his students. And I think a lot of that speaks to how well the fall sports ran. So, yeah.
Roll call vote?
Roll call vote. Kim?
Yes, with all fingers and toes crossed.
So what are we voting on though?
This winter sports.
The winter sports as Brant
that
presented
we
last time.
last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Last
thank you.
meeting.
Yeah. Wendy?
Yes.
Dane?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melissa will try, even though I think we've lost her. Alex?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Sean's not here. Gary?
Yes?
And David?
Yes.
So that passes unanimously. Thank you, guys.
So this is a long
Turn that over.
discussion coming up.
This is the discussion
7A.
part. So, hold on just a sec, I'm just getting myself, there we go. There we go. So as the board requested last time, I did try to put something together so that you guys could have a kind of a good picture of what was going on. And I started with our challenges. That was something that one of the board members had suggested. Like, what's your challenges right now? So I started there. I'm not going to read through all of that, but I'll certainly answer questions as we get further along. You'll notice that I did put social distancing at the top of the page because that's our main challenge. We have schools that are all different sizes. The rooms are different sizes. And we have some schools with a very low population and other schools that have a high population. But again, even in the small schools, the rooms tend to be very different sizes just from room to room. It's not a uniform kind of building. The most uniform building is actually the building you're sitting in right now, which is the middle school. So again, lunches are being eaten in the classroom. They are using cafeteria/gyms, but it is a challenge to be able to pull that off. Then I listed some others kind of going down there. And then I wanted to point out just a few positives of our current hybrid model. For example, all of our classes are running, including specials at the elementary schools and at the middle schools. They're UAs or Unified Arts, as well as at the high school. We've got our AP classes running, our dual enrollment, and we are getting kids to CATC, which I think is fantastic because some schools, frankly, some of those things are gone for them. So I give a lot of credit to my principals for making sure that they worked those things into the schedule and made, even though it was a shortened day, still kept it looking and feeling like it was as normal as it could be without losing everything along the way here. We've had reduced disciplinary issues, and that's across the board. That's K through 12. We really feel that what we're doing is working, and it's keeping COVID-19 out of our schools, and we're able to keep our schools open. So, and again, as Dr. Carr pointed out, we're cautiously optimistic when it comes to the standardized assessment scores. The NUIA is the first one we've given. It's not perfect. There are some things that are out there, and you guys have probably seen and heard some of those things around testing. When you look at the NUIA scores and you look at the number of students that we tested, we've actually done pretty good in terms of, for example, grade 3, last fall there was 83 students. This year there was 74. We've lost 9 students along the way, but that 9 students, and then if you look at reading, those 10 students, we don't know, it's hard for us to be able to say those, what is the achievement level of those students that didn't take the test? We don't know that right now. So again, that's where the cautiously optimistic piece comes into play. The NUIAs definitely did show us that there's a few areas we need to work on, math being one of them, particularly in 7th grade. And again, in, I believe it was 5th grade, I want to say, right? Yes, 5th grade. But reading scores looked really good. So I think, again, and just speaking at the elementary level, having the principals really harped along with the specialists on, you don't have to do something every day, but you do have to read every day. And that is the key to learning is to continue to read. And I know you guys will probably have more questions as we go along. So I'm just trying to give a quick snapshot of things. And then as we go down, one of the things that I think is really important, just like the state of Maine color codes our counties, I think it would be smart for us to look at markers for what we want to do going forward with instructional time, whether it's Wednesdays or looking in some way to try to expand the day. So I put together some markers, and one of the things I think you want to take a look at is what is the case trend, what is happening in Maine right now, in particular our county. So what is the color designation for our county? Knock on wood, we've been green, which is a really good sign. So just want to point that out. We probably want to review cases in our schools and in our district. And I'll do that with you guys in just a second, because I do think it's important that you guys see that. We do have to look at what's going to happen with the vaccine, because there will be people who will be very willing to take the vaccine, and there will be people who will be, I'm going to wait to see what happens. So I think we've got to kind of look at what's going on with the vaccine in the state of Maine as well. Social distancing and the rules that go along with DOE that we had to work under just getting schools open, and I included those at the very end of the document. We have to pay attention to those, because we could be in trouble if we don't. So again, we've got to pay attention to what those rules are. Something that was mentioned by a board member, which I think is a great idea, is to get a survey out to families so that we can kind of get a bead on what our communities are expecting to happen going forward. I think that's something that we should do. And if the board directs me to do that, we'll get one out before the week is over so that we can start collecting that data sooner rather than later. And then, of course, the success of the return to school steps or return to in-person instruction. So what I am kind of recommending is that the board, we have a meeting, the first meeting of each month, except for March, where we review the factors and assess what steps do we want to take going forward. I suggested, and I put dates in there because I thought best case, let me just put best case scenario in here of what we might be able to do. So for example, can we bring back Wednesdays? I suggested, I had originally put a date a week earlier, but when I looked at it, we have PD planned right through the 20th. So I thought if we could, and some of that is paid PD, and we want to make sure that we get our money out of that. But then I also talked with Dr. Conway, and he reminded me that the second quarter ends the week of the 25th there, or the week right before that. So that's why I kind of bumped it back a week, because it seemed like a natural break to be able to start at the appropriate time. And what we would do is bring those Wednesdays back 8 to 8:30 to 1. Then step 2 would be looking at, can we bring back a full day in some capacity? I started with a slow rollout there, but again, I've asked my administrators to weigh in on this, and it may be easier to do a, like, here's the date, and we start this way, just so that we're not asking schools to juggle schedules, like, here's a schedule one day, but the next day it's a different schedule. It might be easier to just say, this is the date we're going to start full time, and we can go back into that. So I did lay something out there, but again, I was thinking a slow rollout, but practicality might be pick a date and you start, on that date, whatever it happens to be. But again, I kind of laid that out for you. I'm going to go backwards for a second, just very quickly. So what I've been doing is keeping a dashboard since COVID started in our schools, and updating it. I meet with the nurses every Friday at 9 in the morning, and they give me an update on what's going on with cases in the schools. And I meet with our human resource director. She's the one that manages what's going on with staff. So I'll just give you the last two updates. On November 20th, which was the before Thanksgiving, the Friday before Thanksgiving, we had no positive cases in school. We had no, and that was staff or students. However, we did have students in quarantine, 5 of them in the elementary school, 1 at the middle school, and 3 at the high school. We did have 2 staff at the elementary school that were quarantined. But again, that was all from stuff that happened outside of school. It wasn't stuff that was directly related to school. It wasn't a transmission at school. So again, normally I do it on Friday, but I asked the nurses today to give me just a quick update. So let me back up a sec, I apologize. So as of November 20th, we had a total of 4 cases, positive cases that had already passed at that point, 1 at the middle school and 3 at the high school. So catching up to today's update, we still don't have any positive students. We have 0 positive staff at this point. We have 4 students at the elementary schools that are in quarantine, again, not related to school transmission. Middle school, there are 2 students in quarantine, and at the high school, there are 5 students in quarantine. And at this time, we have 1 elementary school staff person that's still in quarantine from there. Our total positive student count over the vacation, we did go up by 2. It was 1 that came in the Friday, I'm forgetting what day it was. Right before Thanksgiving. It was either the Tuesday or the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. A positive case had been reported, but that student hadn't been in school, so we were okay and we were going into Thanksgiving break. And we also had 1 student who's totally remote who also tested positive, but hasn't been at school at all year long. So in all total, we've had 6 students, 4 at the high school at this point, 5 at the high school and 1 at the middle school. So that's kind of what our numbers look like. So I'm trying to track that so that as we go forward, we can look at the data and see what does it look like for our students. We do have several students that are in testing phases. So we have about 9, if I remember right, 9 students that are in some stage of testing at this point, and no staff was in testing at this point either. So again, I mean, it looks really good for us, at least at this time here. But again, I think that goes back to all the cleaning and all the other things that we're doing within our building to keep things from exploding in our buildings. Please, Betty, go ahead.
You said that there are 9 students being tested.
Yeah.
Are those 9 students reflected in the numbers that you gave us?
No. I'm only reporting out those that are either tested positive or in quarantine.
Okay.
I do ask the nurses to just give me a running list of how many kids are getting tested right now. And a lot more get tested than obviously have turned out positive. So especially at the elementary schools, we've had a slew of testing at the elementary schools, but no positives at the elementary school yet. So again, if we're looking at markers and trying to get information and trying to decide where do we want to go, I thought it would be really important to kind of start to report those things out to you guys so we can make some informed decisions about what we want to do with Wednesdays and then at the possibility of expanding days, instructional days to a more normal schedule. The Wednesday seems a lot more doable right now than trying to go to an 8 to 2:30 range just because of the social distancing requirements. So I know you guys have tons of questions. I'll try to answer them. I may not have all the answers, but I'll do my best to try to answer them. But I thought this gives you guys kind of something to look at and something we can start to shoot for in terms of trying to get more back. And I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Carr and I'll let him guide the conversation.
So you may have mentioned March 1st was when you wanted to go
Yes.
Wednesdays.
That would be my ideal, actually March, if we could bring Wednesdays back, My ideal would be that week of the 25th. That would be my like kind of ideal if we can do that. I will tell you guys, I feel like we've got to be very cautious because of the holidays, and I don't want to just jump into that. But again, our numbers are showing we're doing a really good job as
So
well.
before we
so.
go on, something was discussed, you should know about it. And that is, this requires another MOU. So the union has to be called back in. So at the end of this meeting, he should have some type of guidance as to what we would like to do, so that he can look forward to come up with a real solution. Go ahead, Kathy.
So I have a couple of questions. The first one is, if we add Wednesday back, I'm thinking about the high school, what cohorts would go on Wednesday?
So I would, and then Dr. Conway and I haven't talked about this a lot. Dr. Conway, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you're comfortable talking, I don't mean to speak for you because I know you're the one that's got to manage that, so.
Sure, it's hard to say. I'd really want to put more thought into it and talk it over with different folks, but it seems like we could have some type of rotating basis, like we did for Black Gold Days, or figure it out, and it might even be between the two cohorts, A and B.
So like 1 week, one, and the
Prob-
next week,
yeah,
the
probably.
other, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking about with the cohorts, how this would all come together. And the same thing with, as you begin to add more days, I'm thinking about the cohorts and how that's going to, is that going to be an equal amount of time that all the cohorts are going to come back? And in my figures, it's not, but I'm not sure that I'm right. But anyway, thank you for that answer. That was the other question I had about what you just said, Gary. If we've agreed to one Wednesday a month for the teachers to have that for professional learning, my suggestion would be we just keep that same thing going and not have the kids come that day. It would just be like a workshop day or whatever, rather than having to go back to the whole association. So that was just my thought.
Thank you, Kathy.
Go ahead, Pat.
Oh, I lost it. Hang on. No. One question I had about, you said, Jay, at the end of what you just presented to us, that a reason that the Wednesday, returning to Wednesdays, 8:30 to 1, is a more feasible thing to envision sooner than extending the full day because of the cohorts?
Yes, yes.
Is it also because of the teaching responsibilities for cohort D?
Yes, because.
Like, I mean, when would teachers do that if kids were there? Oh, that's what we do in where I work. What do we, with the whole, people who are fully remote?
So we have 4 cohorts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We call that cohort D at RSU 4. Sorry about that.
So, no, and let me just clarify, and Dr. Conway, if I misspeak, correct me. So we have A, which comes like Monday,
I mean,
Thursday,
district-wide.
right? But we do have a C, that's our fully remote. And then our D students, we have another cohort that is D, and those students come 4 days a week. Right
Okay,
now.
so
Yeah.
it's the reverse where I work. So I guess I'm asking about cohort C, and I'm wondering district-wide for teachers, is it even, let me backtrack. My question is could we even extend the school day if teachers still have to teach those students who are fully remote? Because if we did that, when would that happen? And then the other question I have for that is, does every district in the state have to have that option? Like, if we're in this process, would we say to the families of the students who are fully remote, we're not offering that anymore? Or can we even say that?
No, we can still offer that because, and again, Dr. Conway, if I misspeak, please feel free to correct me. The way that Dr. Conway has the high school set up is that their curriculum keeps running every day. So even if you're remote, you're still expected to log into class at that time and participate in the class the way the instructor has it laid out. So we can just continue that. That won't change anything unless I'm saying something wrong, Dr. Conway.
I wonder about the whole district too, not just, I'm glad to hear about the high school, but I'm interested in K-8 as well.
Yep.
Don't they have a remote teacher now?
We do have a remote
So
teacher,
that shouldn't
yeah, and
impact
she's
them.
doing it 1 day a week for us.
1 day a week for K-5?
Yes, and we have several ed techs that are helping us out with that. I apologize, not K-8, K-5. I see Dr. Levac is up. Doctor, do you want to
I
speak
just
to
want
your
to
middle
say
school?
ours is similar to the high school, so we have, kids can come in and out. So that wouldn't be hard for us.
So when you say we have a remote teacher, it's Amy Tucker,
Amy
right?
Tucker, yes.
Is she actually doing the teaching or is she doing the supporting who is doing the teaching?
She's supporting. We've got ed techs that are helping out as well.
So
And
when you
what
say
we're
helping
doing
out, are
is
they actually on with the kids
we
teaching
have
them?
Actually, Amy is trying to set up a schedule where she's getting on with like K-2 students and then 3 to 5 students on her teaching day. So she actually just started that.
Seems like an awful lot for one person to do,
yes.
but.
And I'll be very honest, we're actually up to, I think it's 60 students at the elementary school. So, or excuse me, K-5. And that is a bit of a challenge. Thankfully, we have some great ed techs who are helping kind of support that, making contact, and helping to provide the flow of information back and forth and the work back and forth. So it's logistically challenging for Amy. There's no doubt about that. She's doing a really good job considering the situation.
So are the regular classroom teachers K through 5, are they doing remote teaching as well as in?
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, they're not.
Good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kim.
So to clarify for Patty, that means going Wednesdays is not going to impact what the teachers are currently doing, correct?
Yep, thank you.
Though my question was about going, 1 to 2:30. Yeah. Yep, thank you.
So we have, go ahead.
Do we know why the increase in remote learning?
I don't know. My hunch is that people are fearful because of the rising cases. I think that's what it is, but that's me guessing right now, I'll be honest.
I have 2 more questions along. What are the preferences of parents? Do we know what the preference of parents, whether to continue to do as we're doing, to increase the days, increase days, or increase hours? Do we know for sure what parents are thinking?
No, not at this time. And if you guys would give me that directive, that would be something I'd be working on tomorrow to be able to get out. So
I
that
think
could
that's,
give you guys some information.
I think that I would not feel comfortable going forward without knowing what the preferences of parents are. I know that some of you have heard from parents, but sometimes we hear from the parents that are in our circle and think of the same way that we do. And so what are all the other parents thinking, all the ones that we're not hearing from? So I highly recommend that we do a survey. And then has this conversation about expanding to going to 5 days, has this occurred at the staff level in all of the schools? And if so, what are staff feeling at this time?
So we haven't brought that part to the staff yet. We really have only started the discussion at the administrative level. So we haven't brought it to the staff yet as a whole, because I was kind of looking for direction and just making sure I'm doing what the board wants me to do in terms of a rollout with this and whatever
Okay.
information you guys want me to gather and stuff.
Again,
That's-
I would not feel comfortable moving forward with any kind of recommendation until I know what the parents are feeling and what the staff are feeling.
I agree, Betty. I think we need to, that's our first next step.
So one other thing, just as an update for you people, on page 27 of 49, he gave you the attendance expectations. But only one kid in school, all the rest of them are remote, that are missing attendance.
Yeah, our truancy, thank you, Dr. Carr, for pointing that out, because our truancy really is, when you look at that, 14 out of 15 at the high school are students who are remote. We have a hard time getting them to engage. And it's the same thing at the middle school. 2 out of 3 are remote and they're in truancy. And it's getting those kiddos to kind of engage.
But what are the reasons for that? Is it because of parent schedules and they're not able to check in at the time that they're supposed to? Or is it truly not attending? I mean, we need to know
If
that.
you're okay, I invite Dr. Conway up to address that, and Dr. Levack, if you'd like to address it as well.
Sure, I'm sure each case has its own, different situations, but by and large, it's straight up truancy, just not attending. We're trying to work with those folks, but it gets more and more difficult, the situation that we're in, and as students, progress in age, it's a kind of conscious choice to not attend, not engage.
My question, I guess, is if we were to go 5 days, would it make a difference with those students then? Would they come to school?
No.
I don't believe so. I mean, we'd like to have a situation where they're back physically in school. But to do that, we would have to do away with remote learning altogether, have that not be an option.
Okay.
So here's the other little thing that doesn't get told to everybody, is that the grades that you see on the wheel are mostly in school.
Right.
The people that are remote are not taking that test. So keep that in mind. We really don't know their performance or where they are.
Dr. Levack, do you want to talk about?
I just wanted, we have the 2 kids right now that are truant. We have another one that is close. But all 3, I think we're very fortunate because our kids are younger. So if they're truant, there's more, the parents are usually still involved. And I would say out of the 2 that are officially truant, we have plans in place and they've been working. So one of the kids, I don't think has had any more absences. She is a remote learner. And then the other one, the father is messaging me daily. So it's been a successful turnaround for those 2 kids. And then the other one that's really close where we have new expectations. So it's been good. But again, we have a different level of parental support, which is nice.
So Gary, I just had a follow-up to your question, to your comment about, I'm wondering, and I don't know if anybody else is, about at the end of the first quarter, how many students actually failed any of their classes? And again, are they mostly kids that are doing remote? Or I know that NWA is one school, but I'd also like to know, and I think I had asked Jay about that, and I agree with you not putting that in writing, by the way. But I think that's just another piece of data that might inform us.
Yep, no, that's, Dr. Conway, if you want to come up, I do have, he shared it with me. And if I misspeak, Dr. Conway, please feel free to jump in, okay? Because I know you know this information way better than I do. So there was a total of 49 students with failures, but Dr. Conway's also got 32 out of those 49 in credit recovery right now, so that they are making up those credits. Dr. Conway does a really good job of staying on those. He has a really good system of giving them the option to recover those credits, stay on them, get back in. Dr. Conway, I don't know, you can speak probably to how many are remote and how many are in person when you're looking at that.
Sure, the credit recovery numbers are about 2/3 remote, 1/3 in person. And then with credit recovery, students kind of work from where they left off in class. Like, let's say if we're using averages, they had a 40 in the class. The goal is to have them work from that 40 up to a passing grade of 65 and earn a P for the class rather than having to start the whole class over again, which automatically puts them at risk of not graduating.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Dr. Levack, I know you shared with me your information as well, so if I misspeak, feel free to jump in if there's anything you'd like to add into there. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, there look like the total number of students that had, I don't know if I'm seeing this correctly, I should have my glasses on, I apologize. I'm fighting it, you guys, I'm fighting it. So it looks like, based on the information that Dr. Levack shared with me, it looks like we've got 26 students that were at-home learners that, I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. Dr. Levack, do you want to?
So we had 26 students that were at-home learners, and I think we had 5 of them who failed a class. 4 of them failed more than one class, and 1 of them failed one class. And then we had a total of 33 students fail at least one class, cumulatively.
Yeah. And then she's got it broken out who's in intervention as well. So, because I know Dr. Levack's worked really hard on creating an intervention system. So when there's a failure, they're getting extra support right away from that.
And we currently have 118 students in RTI services right now.
So one quick question before you go. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
So out of the 26 at-home learners, 5 of them failed a class and 4 failed more. That was out of the 26?
Yeah.
And then did you say you had a total of 33 kids that failed? Does that include these kids, or is this
That includes those kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jay,
And, oh, sorry, yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
could you just kind of give us a rough estimate of what our baseline is,
Baseline in terms of.
like pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID. Yeah, I think like if you think about like at the high school level, what Dr. Conway said, I think it would be more like a third of the number. I mean, he had a number of 49 there, so I think it would be more like a third of that, Dr. Conway? I may be misspeaking. He
Sure,
tracks
yeah,
these.
it depends on the year. I looked the other day, I was looking back at a previous year, like say, 2018, and there were 79 failures, and it's by semester, and then you figure in it's double the amount of classes we have because it's black and gold classes. So our number now is lower, but to get close to it, you'd have to double it. So, does that make sense to folks?
Mr. Conway, you said that 2/3 of the students who are working on credit recovery are remote learners right now. So that would be about 1/3 that are not.
Yep.
Right.
And so is that kind of, if you had to average, even though I understand what you're saying, that all years are, I think, is this what you're asking, Alex? Like, is it 1/3 of the in-school learners working on credit recovery similar to most years, similar to non-COVID years? Is that sort of a similar proportion?
I'm probably not explaining it right, but in a normal year, we'd have 70, 80 students working on credit recovery in a normal year. And, this year we have 30 plus, a little over 30.
So 70 or 80 out of 300 and something, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that in my head.
Say 370 in the past.
Yeah, again, about 1/3.
Yeah, about 1/3.
Yeah.
So it sounds as if it's,
It's pretty similar
Similar.
all in all. The remote aspect makes it more difficult.
yeah. Could I ask Dr. Levack a question?
Sure.
Is that true too with the numbers that you said, Kristen? Is it, so if 26 students, 33 total students are failing at least one class and 26 of them are remote, that's 7 students? Did I do that right? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. I did. And so 7 students, that actually sounds not bad. in person? Am I thinking about this in a warped way, or it sounds like 7 in-person students are failing at least one class right now? No, did I get that wrong?
It'd be 33 minus 5, so it'd be 28.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so it's not as good. I would say
No.
the biggest difference for us would be those at-home learners. And it was really those 4 kids that failed more than one class. Those are the ones I'm really concerned about. And looking at them, there's multiple concerns. They're missing some things. They're not, but the biggest piece is they're not super engaged. So that would be the biggest difference, was the number of classes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And then I just give you guys a quick snapshot of the elementary school too. The elementary school, because we are looking at standards and they work on those standards basically all year long, we really don't have failures per se in elementary school. So we use things like the NUIA, as you guys saw in the principal reports, Lucy Calkins writing rubrics to help us out, DRAs as well, although we haven't used those yet. Those are the kinds of things we look at. And so everyone's kind of progressing all year long. So it's hard to say X number have failed a standard or a class. So it's more of a growth model. So it's a little tougher to tease that out for sure.
So I do have a little bit of a concern that I've heard from some parents about some first graders, that they're, as a group, that they're really lagging behind because of what they missed in kindergarten. But I mean, they're at school as much as they can be right now. So I'm just, I just think that we really need to keep an eye on that for that
Yes.
group of kids.
Absolutely, and we don't test them. So we won't until we do the winter. So we'll have a much better picture of what learning has been lost and what do we need to recover during that time. Thank you for saying that. That's very good.
Go ahead, David.
Getting back to the overall rollout, as it was sort of called, I think it's very essential, as was pointed out, that you work with the parents, find out their feelings. And I personally expect there's going to be a broad range of feelings on it. But for us, you and us, to get an idea of what those feelings are and how it's spread across the population is important. Working with the staff and the teachers is going to be essential at every stage. But I don't agree with the idea of delaying, again, actually starting a plan, looking forward to, this is what we'd like to implement, and this is what we'd like to start on. Because of the whole COVID situation, because of the need to work with the parents and the teachers and the staff, there's going to be changes, just as with the sports. Every stage, there's going to be changes, and we're going to have to adapt, and everybody else is going to have to adapt. But I really like the idea of a slow rollout, this tentative proposal, taking into, it rang a bell with me, what you said was brought to you, that changing it one day at a time, once we were trying to bring back to full days, might be more confusing for everybody. So the exact stages of that, we need the administration and the teachers and the staff and the parents to be helping us figure this out. But if we can continue to meet the safety, the social distancing, as we're required to by the state and as wisdom and safety require, irrespective of whether the rules say so, if we can do that, then I'd like us to follow through with this, to start aiming for the Wednesdays. And your idea of about the 25th of January, that's not rushing it, but it's not delaying it, as you seem to be concerned, Gary, to March. That's, I really think this is a good start. It lets those that want us to be 5 days as soon as possible know that we are doing something, and as long as we can safely do it, we're going to. But we're going to work with everybody involved and make sure it's safe and practical. It's not going to be more confusing or just throwing out the baby with the bathwater or whatever simile we might put in there. And that's enough of mine. Thank you.
So you're gonna have, when you ask these questions, you're gonna give that proposal to the parents.
Yep. Yep. I absolutely can do that. I think Kim, I see Kim and Alex's hand just so.
Yeah, just a couple questions to piggyback on David over there. One of the challenges was mentioned as the buses, and since I got a call saying that First Student was being used sometime recently, am I to assume that we were able to get some contracted, or was that a
Yes.
one-time thing?
Yes, so very quickly, just, so we've got one driver from First Student that is supplementing our staff right now.
As in staying with us? Like,
They're,
well,
yeah,
however,
they're right now.
consistently doing a route, I guess is the question.
Right now, they are here for the full week. They're gonna let me know tomorrow if they can finish the month of December for us. If that happens, then we will have one driver who's out right now who will be back, which will help us get Randy off the buses as well. First Student has said they might have more drivers come January 1st, but they won't know that until like January 1st. So we will continue to supplement if they have people available, absolutely, for that, because the buses, there's 2 Manchester runs and a Mount Vernon run, and I believe one of the Wayne runs as well, that have, I'm not going to say 49 students on the bus, but there's significantly, there are over 40 students on the bus right now, and that was the only way to kind of make it work for that. And I mean, we're not breaking any protocols or anything like that, but the amount of students on those buses has increased, 2 in Manchester, 1 in Mount Vernon, and 1 in Wayne. So, so I hope I answered your question.
Yep, that's
Kim.
perfect. I do have just one more comment as far as the return steps. I personally would prefer if we started bringing back Wednesdays a little sooner for a couple reasons. One, if we started on the week of January 11th, it would still give us 2 weeks post-holiday, which sounds like is one concern, post-Christmas at least, Christmas Day. In addition to that, it says that it would be 3 weeks in a row, but 2-3, that Wednesday is one of those contracted ones that we
Right,
discussed last week.
right.
So
Good point.
we wouldn't actually make that, whereas if we started earlier, we could.
Yeah.
There would be a break, but at least to not have to do the MOU or whatever the letters are. And to give them that 2-3 still, at least we would still get the 3 to 4 weeks and get a feel for that before, instead of only doing 1 week and then a week that the teachers had off and then a week that they had a Wednesday again.
David?
On the buses, it was wonderful to hear about the First Student driver, but it's still leaving us very close. Have you been able to get other possibilities from Sean or other sites, or is there still
No.
research we can do?
Yeah, so we actually called the 3 kind of major players in the state of Maine, First Student being one of them. We called Sear Bus Lines. They already said they were down 11 drivers, which was 55 runs. So they basically said, no, we don't have anybody. So we did ask their charter service if there was any possibility of being able to use those drivers. And those drivers are actually driving for Sear Bus Line right now because they're so short. So they basically said no to us is what it came down to. We did call Northeast Charter. They basically said no. They actually told us the story that what they were doing was offering signing bonuses for people to sign on, work 6 months, and then you got the signing bonus. And what was happening is people would work 6 months, get their signing bonus, and then they would leave. They just said it's really hard to keep consistent drivers, and they didn't have any extra drivers for us. And as a matter of fact, First Student, when we first called them, said, no, we don't have any drivers, forget about it. Then they called back and said, we potentially could get some out-of-state drivers from Massachusetts because they're actually in several different states. And we were like, well, what's that going to cost us? And then they called back and said, no, that's not going to work because they would have to quarantine and you'll have to pay them through quarantine and all that kind of stuff. So didn't seem very cost efficient. And then, so then they said, we'll call back if anything comes up. And like 10 minutes later, they call back and said, we have a local driver we potentially could let you use. And we were like, yes, we want them. So we worked out a short-term contract with them. So, but everybody's struggling with it obviously right now. So, yeah.
How
I hope that
about
gives you-
Greyhound Trailways, the big bus operators like that?
Yes, one of the things I found out, and this was new to me, that even though you drive a charter bus, that doesn't actually give you a school bus certification. So a lot of those drivers actually have the charter bus certification, but not the school bus certification. And that's where we run into problems. So, and I didn't know that until we started to make calls. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
So Jay, I just wanted to thank you for putting this together. And I 100% agree with that. We should have a plan in place moving forward, especially when it comes to us making this transition, because we don't want to hesitate and we don't want to delay it. There's going to be a lot of preparation that will be made and needs to be made for this to happen. And as you also outlined in the timeline that the board will be meeting on the 6th, the 3rd, the 20th, the 14th, and we'll be reviewing these factors and assessing next steps. So whatever we decide will not be permanent. It's not written in granite. It will be changed, and we understand that. So we're essentially, if we approve this, we'd be approving a tentative plan, and we'd be giving our administrators, we'd be giving our teachers, we'd be giving our parents an idea of this is what we need to move forward. And knowing some of these statistics, it's prudent for us to actually start to move forward, to go back and to have our students back in the classroom. I mean, for the past year, we've heard from parents and teachers of how much they miss their students and how valuable that time is. And I think it would be a loss for us to try to continue to contemplate on this when we already know there's a great demand for students to be back in the classroom. So I'm not sure if tonight we want to make a motion to approve a tentative plan pending review and assessment on the 6th and the 3rd, but that'd be something I would be more than happy to put forward.
Good.
Can you explain what you meant, Gary, about the MOU that would come, like what would the MOU be? What?
So
Yeah.
the MOU has to do with how teachers, I'm not the negotiator, Betty is. And all I can tell you is listening to them, we got to think in the back of our head, if you have something in writing, if it's tentative, as long as we know it's everybody around this table, know it's only tentative, they're going to come back at us with crazy work things. And that's what the MOU is all about. Right now, it's made so that they have Wednesdays off.
Right, but
It's not actually off.
no, it is not. It is not off. They
It's
can
just at
work
home.
from home remotely. One
One day.
one
And then they also
Wednesday
get
a
sick
month.
day.
No, the MOU said they have the first Wednesday of every month, and it was 4 in a row, that they had a no contact Wednesday. No meetings, no contact, no student stuff like they do on the other Wednesdays. The
That's right.
remaining Wednesdays, and any time that they don't have students in the classroom, they are allowed to work from home as long as they can get home within their lunch break.
So
And that's every Wednesday.
thank you. My question was really about what you said at the start of this, and what was going to be coming, because I took that, but I didn't really understand what was possibly going to be coming if we approve this, as there might be some big concerns on the part of staff or the staff association if we proceed with any kind of rollout of this sort of plan. And so then my head went back to, what Betty and Kathy were saying at the very start of this conversation. If there are members of the staff or as represented by the staff association that don't want to do this rollout, and we don't know what the community, we know that there are members of the board who have heard from people who want to, but if we don't know what the larger community wants to do yet, and if extending the day to increase these Wednesdays won't, I took what I heard some of the administrators saying a minute ago was extending the, having more Wednesday contact with students and extending the school day from 1 to 2:30 eventually wouldn't necessarily do anything to help those struggling remote learners, because they would still be remote learners, that I'm not sure that we should proceed yet, because why are we doing this if we don't have staff, community, or students, like reasons for staff, community, and students saying that we should do this? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's what I'm wondering. I would love the answer if there's an answer. And I know people feel really strongly on the board, and I'm not trying to like start up anything or anything. I have not heard from anybody about this, but I know how it feels when you do hear from people about it, and it's hard.
And that's what he's gonna put out a questionnaire on Friday.
I know, but people are proposing that we start.
You gotta give parents some idea of what you're thinking.
I know. What I'm suggesting is that we don't, the question was just on the floor of, should we approve a tentative plan? And I am saying, because of these reasons, that I don't feel clear on, I feel like my job is to do stuff that's best for the students and community and staff. And I don't know what's best for the students, community, and staff, because I don't have the information to decide that yet. So I didn't feel like I'm comfortable supporting a tentative plan for a rollout tonight, because I think we need more information first. That's what I was trying to say.
I agree.
Gary?
Yeah.
So I see your point, Patty. Though I think it's the goal to reach a point, which I think that point would be around March, where we don't have to have remote learning, or at least we reach a point where we can bring back most of the students and have most of our students back in the classroom. And so remote learning wouldn't be an essential part, because remote learning seems to be that one statistic that we're having the most problem with. So if we don't build a foundation towards moving away from remote learning and back to full in classroom, then we're essentially not going anywhere. And that demographic would kind of still continue to be a problem.
But the demographic would still be left hanging if we did go somewhere on this. So I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Well, I mean, we have to slowly move back to full in class.
I'm not opposed to having a rollout plan. I'm just saying I feel that I can't support a tentative plan tonight because I don't have the information. If those three constituents are not, I don't have information that this is good for those three groups, because I don't know what staff thinks. I don't know what the community thinks beyond our board. And I don't know what how people feel like. I mean, I guess we know how adding an hour a week for a few weeks could help students because we think it would, but I guess I'd like more data about it. And I'd also like, I don't think we get to decide that we want students to be, we want remote gone by March. I feel like that's like a CDC thing or the DOE or something like that. Of course, we all want all our kids all the time at school, but that's not how it rolls in the pandemic, right? So I would, of course, want our students to be as much and as soon as possible, but I don't think it is not my understanding that that is our charge to say, okay, by March, we want to have.
Well, it doesn't have to be March.
Well, by any
we still
time.
have to build our way to reach that point where we have to say remote learning.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be an essential part of us communicating our curriculum to our students. But also, I mean, if we delay the process, I believe our next board meeting, we will be doing our retreat, thank you. And then after that is our January 6th. And then from January 6th to when we roll this out would be January 25th. So that leaves 19 days to do all the preparation, planning, communicating, and so forth. I mean, that seems to be a bit of a pinch for everyone.
Yeah, I think this potential having some dates, although I do agree with getting data, that can never hurt, but how do we've been asking, I think this is at least the second time, and every time it's been, well, we'll discuss it at the next meeting. Well, we'll discuss it at the next meeting. So to me, we've pushed it off so many times at this point to do yet another month of pushing it off without having a goal of a date to try to start something. And if the data tells us something different, then at the next meeting, maybe we can make a change. But at least we have some dates in plan, because even if, like I said, I would prefer the week of January 11th, we do still have a meeting prior to that January 11th start date. And if we decide we're going to change it, then we still have time to do that, versus waiting to January 11th to say, well, let's discuss all the data January 11th. Now we're going to push it off again till February before we ever get anything started. Then we have February break. So nobody's going to want, why bother starting before February break? Now we're at the end of February and we haven't started a single thing.
Go ahead.
I agree with what everybody has said. We definitely need data, and we're running out of meeting times. Is there any way to get the board together after we gather some data, like from the surveys, from the staff, from the teachers? And even if it's a remote meeting, one night, we all discuss it as a board again, so we can keep everything moving forward without overstepping the data we're collecting. Is that something we can do? Jay?
Yeah, that's up to you guys.
Gary?
Yeah. To you
Is that
guys.
something we
It
could
can
do?
be done, but I think what you have written, I think needs to be given out to the public. Dwayne, Dane, do you have something to say?
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100% with Alex. That the more we prolong this, it's just sort of just prolonging the inevitable. There needs to be a set time. But I do agree with having the community and the parents and teachers input. But like everyone's been saying, we've been asking for this since October, and nothing's telling us to stop, to retreat, if you will. Everything's more or less kind of telling us, keep moving forward and let's gain some ground.
Have a goal.
Gary?
Go ahead, Dave.
I'd like to start with an initial motion that we approve or ask the superintendent to survey the whole school community about a plan like this and get their feedback.
Second.
Any discussion? So that.
I just have a quick question on that.
Go ahead.
When you, Dave, could you just clarify when you're saying that? Are you meaning just right now we're just getting a survey? Nothing's tentative. We're not giving them any, any dates or anything. It's just a blanket survey. Is that what your motion is?
My motion is with the intent of getting what I think everybody would agree with off the table. And then a second motion could propose going forward with a plan or the plan. So this motion does not include going forward with the plan, but it does not intend to exclude it from our actions tonight. It is more to get this survey that I believe in some form is broadly agreed to off the table. We want that if it's voted on, and let's go with it. And then let's talk about the next step if we're going to, maybe I'll make another motion on the next step, but someone might.
Gotcha, thank you.
I have another quick clarification to piggyback Dane's for you, David. Do you mean in the motion, school community, is that parents, or is that parents and staff? Or is it everybody? Or
By that, I was meaning everybody we talked about, the parents, the staff, the teachers and association, the administration, so that we get a full picture. Personally, as I said earlier, I believe there's going to be a very broad range of responses from each part of the community, but that's what we want to find out as best we can.
So I'd like to ask a clarifying question, and I don't mean to muddy the waters in any way. Would I include the students, especially at the middle school and high school, in a survey of this, just so that you have a student perspective? And I'm just asking, it's okay to say yes or no. I'm just asking, because if we are going to talk about a full community, it would be great to maybe have at least a little bit of a student voice in here as well. So.
Very important part of it, yes.
Yeah, that's yes, but you don't exclude elementary school either. I think
no, I'll make sure. No, thank you, Dane, for saying that. I will definitely make sure one's written for the elementary school as well. Thank you.
Perfect.
And I believe, Rebecca?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that in this survey that you have an identifying factor. They don't have to say their name, but if they could just say if they're a student or staff member or community member, that would be great.
Yep. We can do that.
Roll call vote.
Okay. Kim?
I'm doing this for the actual feedback piece, right? That's what I'm.
Right, this is for the survey.
Okay, yeah, yes, on a survey.
Thank you. Wendy?
Yes.
Dane?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melissa, I don't know if she's online or not.
Yes.
Oh, good, you're back. Alex?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Sean's not here. Gary?
Yes.
And David?
Yes.
So it passes unanimously. Awesome.
I'll make a motion to approve this tentative plan as suggested by the superintendent, and to be reviewed factors and assessment and next steps according to the timeline as outlined as well.
I second it.
But
I'd like to change it to the January 11th, week of January 11th for Wednesdays.
I second that.
Can I make a motion to amend that?
That
Or
would
do
be
we
an
have to vote on
amendment.
both, or what, how does that work?
That would be an amendment.
Because as this, I don't agree, but I think January 11th, unless something crazy happens with the survey results.
So you made it.
So what are my options?
Additional change to the motion. So on the amendment, is there a second?
I think
Dane had
Dane
seconded.
seconded.
Right. Dane, you did second that, right? Yeah, okay, just making
Absolutely.
sure. And
I'll
you
third.
said the
So-
week of the 11th,
The week
right?
of January
Okay.
11th.
Can you explain again why January 11th?
Because if you wait until the 25th, they're going to have one Wednesday that they would be there. And then in order to stick with our giving the teachers the first Wednesday of each month, that means they wouldn't do it on February, I think it's like 3rd or something.
Okay.
And then they would go back the following week. So they'd basically have one week of a Wednesday, then they'd be back to what they're doing currently, and then they'd go back to 1 week of a Wednesday. Whereas if you start January 11th, they would actually have 3 Wednesdays in a row. Then the teachers would get that first February Wednesday off like we agreed to last time. And then they'd go the week of February 8th, they would go on just Wednesday again before the remaining suggestions are potentially next stepped.
Okay, roll call.
So I just want to be clear. So we're voting on the amendment to change the plan
To 11.
to the 11th.
Right.
And then if that passes, then even
We're
if it
done.
doesn't pass, then we vote on the next amendment. So I just
We
want to
go
make
back.
sure everybody's clear.
Yep.
The next, main motion.
And then the main motion, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
then we have to go back.
Yeah.
If we don't get this one.
David.
just
before-
another clarification, the motion, original motion was about the plan as presented, but in some of your introduction, Jay, you'd suggested that the final plan might be better off having, rather than a graduated rollout for the full days, it might be better to do them all at once.
Yeah.
Should I just drop my question on that? Because that's something we deal with at a later meeting anyway.
We
Okay.
deal with that.
Forget my question then.
Okay.
Go on to.
Okay, so this is on the
So what was the
amendment.
answer to your question? That it would be,
He dropped.
that we could change?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's tentative, it could be
Right.
changed.
This is all.
Okay,
tentative.
I just want,
Yeah.
I want to make, I
Yeah.
want to be clear on what we're voting on.
It'll be labeled tentative.
Okay, so this is the vote on the amendment to change the plan date to the 11th, the week of the 11th. I think it's the 13th is the first Wednesday there. So, okay, so Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa? Oh, did we
Yes.
lose her yet? Oh, there we go. Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
No, but that's not really totally true, but I think I have to say no.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
No.
Sean's not here, Gary,
Yes.
and David.
I say yes, because as we just discussed, it's tentative.
Right.
And the feedback and the administrative evaluation and so forth will come into effect and may need to put it back to the 25th or may be able to keep it at the date of the amendment. So it's yes.
So there's 9, amendment passes, 9 yes, 2 no. So
That's it.
then the next step is to vote on the original motion with the amended date. So the plan,
Yep,
As
so
written.
that can be presented.
Yeah,
Roll call.
Well, I'm
We
sorry,
discussed-
I'm still not clear on what I'm voting on.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
And I appreciate Kim asking that because she's the first one to vote. so.
I'm first, so there's no way out.
Isn't the motion now to vote to accept or not accept the tentative plan
With the
with the
revised
rollouts
date.
as they're written, except for changing the
Yeah.
January 25th to January 11th? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that answer what you were
Yeah,
asking?
I think so. So, yeah, okay.
I think Kathy's got a question.
Clear as mud.
So I just want to clarify that this, and this is going to be really important, I think, when we roll it out, that this is a suggested plan, and I'm still wondering about the high school, what cohorts are going to be going on what Wednesday, and who's going to start the next Tuesday for the next
All be
cohort.
ironed out.
So I just want to make sure that people, and I really want to make sure that the teachers understand that we're not taking that Wednesday of professional learning away from them. That's still going to be in there. It's just going to be a day, one Wednesday that the kids won't go. They'll just do whatever they're going to do on that Wednesday anyway. So I think that's really important. I just want to make sure that you have, that you make sure that's clear with whoever's this is going out to, that this is really a suggestion.
Okay.
It is a Wednesday when they would have no meetings and no remote contact with students. It's not professional development.
Well, it still could be professional learning.
It could be on their part, right? But it's their choice as to whether it's planning. Right. Yeah.
That brings up another thought or question I had is part of the feedback and part of development of it needs to be sure that part of the Wednesdays was because times were short. We were including a lot of things that the teachers needed to get their work done in the Wednesdays. So whether it's the one Wednesday a month thing, but all the Wednesdays, part of this planning, and I'm sure you and the admin team have been working on already, we need to be sure that the staff, the teachers, and the students still are able to get everything they need. That's part of making the day full eventually.
We agree. Roll call.
Okay, we good? Kim? Wendy,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
No.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
No.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
So it passes 9 yes and 2 no. Thank you guys very much. I've got some good direction here. I really appreciate this.
So now we're going up to surplus property.
Oh, super quick. Can I just ask, David, you were, the thing you said, no, let's not muddy it. Let's talk about it later. What was that? Just a minute ago, you were saying something. Do you know what I'm saying? What was it? Because whatever it was, yeah, you had a question.
Yeah. The slow rollout versus just picking
Oh,
a start date.
my question is, for, I guess, for the group, before Jay sends something out to people, would that be something that would be good to include in the questionnaire or the survey? That was all.
Yep. I think so too. Yeah, I can make that part of the survey. I think that's a great idea.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
Jay, did
Jay,
you
I have
say
a-
initially that you thought you'd get the survey out this week?
I'm going to work really hard to try to get it out
Okay, I
on
think that's crazy,
Friday.
but hey, good for you.
Yeah. No, that's going to be the priority because we're going to need it. So it's got to be the priority.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Yes, Wendy, sorry.
How, after you get the survey back and we disseminate it to the board right away, will we try to be putting together a meeting, even if it's on Zoom, an emergency meeting to discuss this and the process?
Why
Or
don't I get the survey ready and out and see what I have for a timeline, and then I can meet with you and Gary to decide if we want to call a meeting and how we want to get that survey information out. How's that sound?
that sounds great.
Yeah, if the rest of the board is okay with that, because
We'll let you know as soon as we hear.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay, for all your work on this. Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you, guys. No, this was really good. I appreciate it.
I have just one question, and I don't want an answer necessarily, but Alex, you talked about getting all kids back and not needing remote learning. And I guess I want to put out there, will we get rid of remote learning for good? Or
Not this year.
are we meeting, no, not this year, ever. Are we meeting the needs of a group of people that we need to continue to meet through remote type learning? So I don't want to lose that in all of this. And maybe, I don't know the answer to that, but I'd like to keep it out on the table because there could be a group of kids who learn better through remote learning, and we don't want to throw this out. This might be one of those learnings that we want to keep. So,
Well, the reason to keep it is to keep our student count up so we get our state funds. But you haven't published the amount of our student count that October 1st that we used.
Oh, I can get you that. That's not a problem.
And then you need to have, and that,
Student count, enrollment count. Yeah.
because I think the whole board needs to hear that number.
Yep, and I'll put
And
that
then
in my
the
report.
amount of that is who's remote.
Yep.
It's one of the.
Okay, we're up to 7B.
Oh, Gary, David.
Just quick further comment on that. I agree with Betty, and in a way it relates to what you said, Gary, but we have a couple of charter schools, or at least one, that are specifically because some kids really do better with remote. And if we can be providing that to those that need it, whether for physical reasons or emotional reasons or just their individual skills, some people are
Right.
visual, et cetera. It's a good part of what's developing out of this, and if we can keep that as an option for temporary situations or full-time, I really think it'd be good. And it doesn't have to stop us from going back to being full-time for everybody else.
That's right. Jake,
Okay, so 7B, which is the surplus equipment. I put the policy in your folder. It's listed as, school properties disposition. So you don't need to vote or anything, but I wanted to let you guys kind of know what was going on. We've got a 1986 International tanker truck that was donated to the adult education program by Augusta Fuel. And we have actually never used it. So we went through a bid process to see if anyone would like to buy it, and we got 0 bids on it. So we'd really like to get it out of the yard so we don't have to clean snow around it and all that other kind of stuff. So what I'd like to do is, what's the term I'm looking for? I'd like to declare this as surplus and just put it out for whoever would like to make an offer on it and buy it from us. Because again, we got it as a donation. We've never used it. It's been around for many years, and we just kind of have to get rid of it. It's pretty much probably going to be something that somebody would get for spare parts and stuff at this point. So I'd just like to declare it as surplus and be able to sell it if we find a buyer at this point. You guys don't need to vote on that per the policy, but I did want to make you guys aware so that if you got any questions, you knew what was going on there. So
it definitely doesn't make emissions
yeah.
for a commercial.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh. Sean.
Yes, Jay, I do know somebody that would like to bid on that. So I will talk with you tomorrow on that.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, there we go.
So Jay, do what you ever have to do.
Well, I just
get
I
out
wanted you
the
guys to
yard.
know.
Don't make
Yeah.
emissions,
Yeah.
I know that.
Chop it up for parts. Do what you gotta do. Have the IA kid go at it. Nobody gets
Any
it.
further discussions?
Oh,
Adjourned.
I had a question, Gary, sorry. I just wanted to clarify, on December 16th, we are having our retreat. And I think the time was 6 to 8. And is that going to be here?
It'll be right here, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make
So-
sure I knew.
I have a
Thank you.
quick announcement.
Oh, Melissa, go ahead. I think that was Melissa, right?
The one reason I disappeared for a little bit is a friend of the district, Shenna Bellows, has been voted Secretary of the State. Yay, Shenna.
Tell her congratulations.
I will. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
That's right.